15 or 20 blood vials, I'd be okay with that. Alright, where is, how does one get to the chalice dungeons? It's these, right? A short ritual root chalice is required to conduct a ritual? The other tombstones. First ritual altar. That seems right. Costs 1,000. So we'll have to sell some junk. I guess we do have 50 bloodstone shards. Let's go. I have also never done a chalice dungeon. I'm going to Incheon on the 24th to start teaching. I'm going to be the first male teacher they've ever hired. Oh, Lord. And want to make a good impression. Any tips on how to interact with administration? Also tips on what language book I should get to learn how to read Hangul. To answer your second question first, you can learn Hangul easily on the internet for free. I'm sure there are myriad tutorials. Literally, the alphabet will take you like less than a couple of hours to learn, and then it's all phonetic. So you will be like, trust me, you'll be reading things. Like, you'll walk down the street and be like, oh, that sign says coffee, or that sign says computer. I think I have a pretty good idea what they're selling there. So that's good. As opposed, like, or with respect to, like, how to interact with the administration, it's gonna sound like I'm being negative, but, you know, it's true that essentially you're like a mercenary. You're just like a hired gun. So, basically, like, they own you. So I'm trying to think of, like, excuse me, a nice way to say this. Like, keep this in mind. Like, I was used to, like, a North American situation where you'd be like, what are you? Where you'd be like, hey, me and my coworker have a dispute, so we have to, like, get together and solve that dispute. And in Korea, it's more like, you don't understand, the solution is that they're a higher rank at the office than you, so it's already solved. So you're you're basically like a hired gun. That doesn't mean it's going to be a bad experience. It just means, like, if you want to get along with the administration, it's really easy. Like, show up on time and do your work and don't complain, and they will love you. Don't you dare. Lovely. That was way too close. All right. I worked in retail, so I feel that. Yeah, you pretty much got it. Like, I think it's not to be negative, but it helps to have realistic expectations. Like, I worked at a school with maybe 6 other teachers who were from North America, and between the 6 of us, or the 7 of us, none of us ever took a sick day. And the reason for it is because you can't. You'd be like, hey, I'm not feeling that well today. They'd be like, that sucks. I hope you feel better after a hard day of work. So you gotta, yeah, you gotta kind of like know where you stand. There was also, like, we worked, like, normal hours. Like, I worked, like, 3 to 11, 5 days a week during, I thought I just got hit by a message. I worked 3 to 11, 5 days a week. But then 1 month, the principal was just like, hey, I don't know what that does, but sure. 1 month, the principal was just like, hey, the schools are out, so we're gonna, like, double your teaching hours. You're gonna be working, like, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. And they're like, yeah, we know. But it's just kind of the way it is, you know? So yeah, I toughed it out for that month, and your pay does not rise proportionally. Are you working at a hagwon, or are you working at a public school? Is this, do I leave now? I don't understand. Was there a door, like when I pulled that lever, was there a door over here that opened up? Or is it back? Well, I read an article yesterday. How high was the attrition rate? 0. Nobody left. Because you can't. It's a new door that unlocked somewhere, but it's somewhere else in the dungeon. Okay. I mean, you can leave. You can be like, I quit, but then they cancel your visa, and I wouldn't say you get deported, but you do have to leave the country. So, but I read an article that was like, you know, there's a huge culture of overwork in South Korea and in Japan, but there was and it's worse for, like, actual Koreans, because, like, we're just there, we're tourists basically, right? So when we're done, we're just like, okay, good to go, see you later, this was a lot of fun, I ate a lot of cool food. And they're like, we gotta live this forever. So there's like a there's a resort near Seoul. Oh Jesus. And what the resort is actually a prison. Yeah, that's the one, Craig. So what you do is you give up, like, your phone, your laptop, and stuff like that, and you go sit in a 25 square foot cell with a teapot and a notebook, and you just stay in prison for a week. And they were interviewing people, and they were like, yeah, we love it because, like, being at prison is not like being at work. Work is the real prison. So they got, well, I think, like, right now, legally, a company, if they advertise full-time work, they can make you, well, make you is kind of a loaded term, but they can have you work for 68 hours a week without paying you overtime. They're trying to lower that in the government right now to 52 hours a week, I think. Easy. Would probably be a little easier if I had some blurred verls, but so be it. It's the same in Canada with salaried work. Well, I mean, I suppose, but it's not the norm to spend like 68 hours a week at work. In contrast, Germany just won the right to a 28-hour work week. That's crazy, dude. You know what I would do? Just work 28 hours one day and take 6 days off. 52 hours isn't insane. 68 is insane. I agree with that. I think everyone's tolerance for it is a little bit different, but yeah, I can understand where you're coming from on that one. 68 is out of control. I'm teaching at a Hagwon. Are those worse than public schools? They're the more common option, and it's that's what I taught in as well. It's worse in some ways. Like, I think public schools are probably better, because, you know, the Korean school year is like 5 months on, 1 month off. So when you're in a public school, like, prepare to hear, you'll have friends that work in public schools, because, I mean, Incheon's a pretty big city. And they'll say things like, oh, work is so boring. All the kids are off school, so I just have to sit at my desk and browse the internet all day. And you're like, oh, cool. Well, your students come to my school because your school isn't working, and I have to teach 13 40-minute lectures a day. So, like, I can't really sympathize with you, I'm sorry to say. Hey, please don't grab me. Bloodstone shard. Well, are the ritual bloods just chalice items? Like they're used to get more, to unlock more chalices? Hello? Hello? My place called Vertigo. Okay. You didn't check to see if it's a mimic? I was told by some good sources that there's no mimics in this game. By the way, I don't dispute the idea that that is boring, to just sit at your desk. Like, because I mean, at least the way I like to see it, and this is probably a little biased depending on where you work, but in North America, if you were a teacher and your kids weren't coming to school because of summer vacation, you'd be like, hey, can I just not be at school? Because there's no kids here and I've already planned my lessons for like 100 years. And they'd be like, yeah, of course. But when you're a foreign teacher, at least in Korea, it's like, well, I get what you're saying, but we do kind of own you, so, like, we'd really like, who knows, we might need to, like, translate one thing today, so, you know, we'd really like you to stick around. But that's only in a public school. In a Hagwon, you don't have to worry about that, because you're gonna be busy. There's big positives, like, by the way. Don't let me sound like it's all negative. At a Hagwon, if you're a daytime teacher, you'll teach like maybe like 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., which is pretty okay. And if you're a nighttime teacher, you'll teach at like 3 p.m. and you'll get off maybe at 9 or 10. And it's flexible. Whoa, my lord. It's flexible. So like, if you have no classes, you might get off at 6 one day. If you have a lot of classes, you might have to stay a little later, but, you know, it was very nice to be living in a different country and be able to be like, okay, I don't have to work till 3. So if you woke up at, like, 11, you could just hang out for 4 hours, and then you go to work, and then after work, I mean, you're pretty much just going home, but still. When did the Chalice Dungeons end? And where do I go? Oh, wow. Never. Oh, they never end. Okay. I understand that they're roguelikes, but, you know, it's kind of like a false dilemma, right? Like Isaac ends. No, I think, like, there is value in teaching. Corey will tell you the same thing. Corey taught English in Japan for, like, 8 years. And it seems like, I won't speak for him, it seems like the environment in Japan is a little bit more worker friendly. Like if you sign a contract with a company that sucks, you can actually leave and work for someplace else without being deported. Yeah, no, you're right. It's kind of like a victory lap, like taking an extra year after high school graduation to just kind of like, you know, find yourself. I think we go down maybe. So like the thing is, if you do 1 year, I know it sounds like it's prison, but if you're there for 1 year, 2 years, you know, it can be a good experience. But what ends up happening a lot of the time is people go there and then they hang out for a year and then they don't really like make meta progress in their life, which is fine. So they go, I don't, you know, like you leave your home country to work there because you don't have good prospects. So you kind of take like a year to just work and make some money. Maybe you can get your loans paid off a little bit, but people go like, I don't, you know, working here has not given me the skills I need to be more gainfully employed when I go home than I was when I started. So maybe I'll just stay here another year. I mean, I've got friends. I've maybe put down some roots to some extent. And then, you know, we met people there. And this is genuine. I'm not looking down on them. But they're there and they're like 50. And you're like, how long have you been teaching English in South Korea? And they're like, oh, you know, like 20 years. And you're like, wow. That's crazy. Yeah, it's like, that's a good way to describe it. It's like a treadmill job. There's a way out, which is like, you can get a decent job teaching English at a university, but there's like 4 of those per city with like 100 English teachers, so. When you were there, was Bill from Toronto there? Big ass beard, tall guy, been there 20 years. I don't remember a Bill. To be honest, I only hung out with people like from my school, so, well, not only, but like my social network was relatively small. Hilariously, because I was also like recording a lot of YouTube videos, which helped me get out. But I mean, it's not a ridiculous question because we both worked in the same city, and you know, it's a big city, but there's not that many expats there, so it's not a horrible question in terms of like plausible answers. I can't remember like almost anybody's name. Everybody that I worked with has left, and they've either left to do, is this a summon? Prospector, Professor Oak. They've either left to go back to like their own, that sounds wrong, to go back to their own country. But they've gone home and they've, you know, made progress that way. Or they've basically committed to, like, this is going to be their life for a while, so they got out of Daegu. And they're like, well, if I'm gonna be an English teacher, I might as well work in, like, Seoul. I might as well work in, you know, Busan, depending on whether you prefer the city or the beach. I don't want to fight any enemies that vomit anymore. I think I've earned that right. Anyway, the thing is, like, I hope it shouldn't be, like, scary. You're gonna be fine. It's a very easy job in the whole thing, in the whole scheme of things. But there are frustrations. I was very happy to not go back. But not everybody feels that way. A lot of people are like, I'm so stoked to go back. Do you think you'd still be teaching if not for streaming and YouTube? Nah. I think if I hadn't pivoted to streaming and YouTube, I might have done one more year in Korea because I didn't have like that many prospects. Then I probably would have come back and like taken the GRE and tried to get like a master's in some kind of biological discipline. What did you think of the U.S. Army members in this city? Were they as big of shitbags then as they are now? Obviously not all of them. I mean, there were like I think I've told this story before, but like, I was in a bar in Daegu. I wish I could remember the name so it would make the story better for you who also lived there. It was one of the ones downtown with dartboards, but it was not Who's Bob. It describes just about every location in the city. But there's like a US military guy up there ordering a drink. And he goes, hey, settle a bet for me. What building is on the US $5 bill? And I was like, I don't know, the fucking Capitol building or something? And he's like, look at this idiot, he thinks it's the Capitol building. It's like, I'm Canadian, you asshole. I don't know what the... I don't know what building's on the $5 bill off the top of my head. Why do I know so much about... Why am I supposed to know so much about American money? I don't get it. Yeah, he was a real ass. There were also signs on some of the bars that were like, no military personnel allowed. So there was... Obviously there was like some animosity there. Arcane Haze. What building's on the Canadian $5 bill? I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know what's on Canadian money. I'm trying to think. Because I don't see paper money that often anymore. He's making progress. He got a blood vial. I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. I'm taking a little mental health break to get my sanity check back. Oh, that's right. $5 is the hockey kids. The kids playing hockey. Oh, it's Monster Hunter World. Kunk. Who's the lady on the UK pound notes? Come on. Don't make me laugh. I know all about the queen, my dude. Or as we in the Commonwealth call her, Lizzie. Hello? I don't know if I have any other Korea stories. I understand, you know, you might be hungry. Here. You may enter the room, but please don't rest on the keyboard. I agree. 12 bullets. Pretty sweet haul. Just make one up. It's harder than you'd think. Let's go. 3 blood vials. And we got 10,000 echoes. It's a start. I don't know. I think the enduring thing about... First off, like, teaching in Korea is a really easy way to get an okay salary and have almost no expenses when you work there. So it's not all bad. You are kind of treated like meat, but, you know, when you're like 20, that's okay. Tomb mold. But the best thing out of it, I think that I got was a perspective that, like,